I'm a musician, and I may not be in a band where we play a live concert and I'm on the guitar or I'm singing. My concert is my DJ sets, and me playing my art in my DJ sets is my way of like playing the live instruments and giving the people the concert.
You simply can't afford to have a day off on the couch being cooked, let's say, from a night out. Could you elaborate on why you can't afford these days off? And could you also describe a little bit about the level of work ethic it takes to be beside a guy like Hugel and manage a super hot up-and-coming record label?
I'm meeting agents, I'm meeting promoters, I'm meeting owners of clubs, I'm meeting, artists like Diplo when he brought out J Balvin at Brooklyn Mirage. Like, I'm meeting these people, I'm meeting their teams. I can't be fucked up. I can't be drunk. This is a business, man. This outside of the art and outside of the music, this is a business that we're in.
What up, my friends? Welcome back. Brodie Nero TV, another big episode. Let's rock. Before we get started, I hope you know the drill by now. Please like, comment, subscribe, show some love, engage. Let's build this thing up. Man, I'm here today with my boy, Juany Bravo. How you living, man? What's good?
Oh, good, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm excited for this one. So you're coming straight from Thailand to Bali. You seem to really enjoy Thailand. You've told me personally a little bit about the history there and how much time you spent there. What makes it so special for you?
I think in general, just like the vibe there. And, as we spoke about it a little bit before, I lived there for 5 years and I consider that my second home, really. I actually feel more at home there than I do, back in the States at home.
Cool.
All my friends are there, a lot of friends, still living there. And I think it's a place that helped me develop as an artist, as a DJ, as a producer. The influences, the kind of where I really got like my international start.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was DJing before that, in Arizona. That's where I started.
Yeah.
And then after that, I left the States and I was in Thailand, and that's kind of where I started, playing around in the region and playing, different cities and things like that. So it's kind of like the first big international place that I was able to kind of just DJ and live at and travel around and things like that. So
cool. I always like these stories, and I like to go a little deeper on them because I think there's a lot of people that they think where they're born and raised is where they need to always be.
Definitely not, yeah.
Taking a risk and jumping across the planet literally scares people. So I'm curious, what gave you the confidence or the desire to take such a big leap of going from the States all the way over to Thailand?
I think it was a combination of things. Right after like uni, I graduated uni, I started traveling as an adult by myself, really. I was fortunate enough that growing up, I was able to go to Europe and travel and see other places. But, when you're a kid, you're just kind of there with your family and you're not really like enjoying it for the most part, experiencing the culture. And then as I started traveling as an adult and really like understanding different cultures, I realized that I didn't want to be living in the US anymore. I wanted to explore other areas of the planet and just kind of be like a nomad. And then as I started DJing, I used to be a school teacher. I was a school teacher for 10 years. I have a master's in education. So I was,
so cool.
Working in Thailand as a teacher. So that was another reason why I went out there, is because I got hired to go teach at an international school there. And it was one of those things where the opportunity was presented and I was like, well, yeah, this isn't going to happen again. So I need to do this. And it was scary at first because, like I said, I had just started DJing. I was, I had a solid residency in like one of the biggest clubs in my home city in Scottsdale. And it was like, oh man, I had just started putting out music. So I was like, is this the right call for me to like move to a different country and really kind of start this, parallel DJ journey with my music, with my teaching career somewhere else where like I don't know anybody. But it was, I think in the end it helped me become the artist that I am, the person that I am. And it was one of those things because I know like I feel like a lot of artists start in their hometown and kind of like build that hometown base and just stay there until kind of things start popping off and then you start moving around. For me, I never really, like I was always kind of in different cities and different homes. So I never really had like a home base until like Bangkok. Now I would consider Bangkok kind of like the second home base, but it was always kind of like moving around and really trying to make the connections on my own and meet the promoters and see the clubs and just kind of from the ground up, really.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I dig it. I can totally relate because I've lived a whole bunch of different places and I got love for Canada and Toronto where I'm from, but there's something special about Bali. I feel like I've really found my way here, so I can totally relate to packing up, leaving, jumping across the planet and setting up something new. Cool, man. So now that you've been in Bali a few days, you played my event last night. She's with us. We'll talk about that. It was super lit. What's your thoughts on the music scene here, the culture? What's your experience been like in the last few days?
I mean, without even having to be here, I feel like the music scene here is blowing up. Like I already knew about it, like just from over the past couple of years, how Savaya and Dessa and like all these mega clubs just throwing these crazy events with like massive headliners, Black Coffee, just Solomon. So it was definitely a big bucket list spot to come here and play and like debut. So I'm very thankful for you having me out here. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And besides that, like just the being here in Bali, it's such a beautiful place and the culture and I have like a very special place in my heart for Southeast Asia in general. So like I love being places like this, like the tropical and the food is amazing and just like the whole vibe, is dope.
Yeah, no doubt. Glad you like it, man. Yeah. Like I said, last night was super good. So hopefully we can figure something out for next year, bring you back. Nice, man. So bro, you're a producer, touring DJ, and you're also managing a huge, I don't want to say up and coming, but people are really starting to pay attention more to Make the Girls Dance, the label.
Yeah.
I was curious. I mean, we spoke about it last night, but I'd love for people to hear about how intricate and how involved you are. What's your official role for the label Make the Girls Dance? And what are some of your responsibilities that you do to take care of it and manage it?
I'm the label manager and A&R for Make the Girls Dance Records, which is Hugel's record label.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, basically everything from, A&R, checking the demos. So basically the way that it works is we have a track stack account. Producers send me demos. I check them out. Whatever I like that I feel that I would play in my sets and that Hugel would play in his sets. We shortlist those, download them, send them over to him. He tests them out. I test them out. We kind of, always on we literally chat every single day, on WhatsApp, messages back and forth, talking about which songs we want to sign. Once we played a song out a couple times and we see the reaction, we know that it works. Okay, boom, we sign it. I reach out to the artists, prep the contracts, get everything sorted, and I, deal with my with our graphic design guy, get the artwork, kind of get the plan out, schedule it, and then from there, just kind of like getting it up on distribution, getting all those all the logistics for the release ready, and then we put the track out. So pretty much from start to finish, it's from point A to point Z till release day. That's kind of I'm behind that, and then obviously with Hugel, we use his platform to really push the songs and the artist on there, and it's cool. Like the reason I feel, obviously we're getting a lot of great music and we're making really big waves in mainly the Afro House genre. Mm-hmm. Although we're not specifically just Afro House, if the track is cool, whether it's house, deep house, indie dance, we're gonna sign it. If I want to play it and I know that Flo is gonna play it. That's Hugel's name's Flo, so I call him Flo.
Yeah.
If I know Flo is gonna play it and it's a cool track and it works well, then we're gonna sign it. We're not like, oh, it has to be Afro House. It has to be this sound.
Got you.
But what we're saying is cool. We're getting a lot of really, really good music, and I think why people are also paying attention a lot to the label is because we really are like a family. You know what I'm saying? Like we take the artist, and we're not a record label that looks at metrics and social media numbers from an artist in order to sign them, or their Spotify numbers. Like I don't care about that. When I get demos on Trackstack, on Trackstack you have an option to check out. You can link your Spotify, you can link your Instagram. Like I've never even clicked those. When I get a demo, like I don't look at that. I just listen to the demo. I listen to the music, and if I like it, I like it. It doesn't matter to us if like you have 100 followers or 100 million followers. Like if the music is good, the music is good, and I think that's what's really set us apart from a lot of other record labels. Is that like for us, the music comes first, and we're a family. And when whether you are starting, we have artists who've their first releases with us ever, and we have artists who are already killing the Beatport charts, coming up, releasing music with us. And we just treat everybody the same. And I think that's why the appeal to sign with us and get the music out, because we do so well, because it's all about the music. It's not about the metrics. It's not about the numbers for us.
Cool. I dig it, man. You mentioned something about testing songs before you sign them. Is that I'm curious to learn, is that like a hard rule? Like if you like a song, you're going to see if it does well while it's performed, and that dictates if it's going to get signed or not? Do you ever have songs that you guys like so much personally, but they don't necessarily get received super well when they're performed, but you still consider signing them? Or
I mean, for the most part, here's the thing. We're a label for DJs, by DJs. We are club music.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, we do have a couple of tracks that are, that have done incredibly well streaming wise. But for the most part, all the stuff that we put out is club music. That's what it's for. And even if like if I hear something that's like, wow, this is gonna be amazing, if it doesn't do like super well live, we kind of have a chat about it, and they're like, okay, like why is this not doing live? Maybe we talk to the producer and like, hey, maybe we need to like change the drums on this a little bit, to give it a little bit more drive, maybe a little bit more energy, things like that. Which we've done with a couple tracks that were just nearly there, and we just told you, hey, maybe we need to let's build a little more tension in the breakdown, in order to like have this also be a club track and do well in the club, but at the same time still have that like streaming appeal.
Yeah.
But I would say that, to answer your question, it's not a hard line that if it doesn't do well in the clubs that we're not going to sign it, but it's definitely a huge, component of what we sign.
Yeah, got it. Great answer, by the way. Thank you. I like the fact that you guys still leave room for play in terms of you like a song enough to want to perform it, and then when you perform it, if it's not quite there, you give the artist an opportunity to take it back to the drawing board, maybe rejig a couple things, and then get it ready.
Yeah, especially if it's something that, like if it's a track that, if I'm downloading it, it's because I like it, and I play it, and I can see the potential, and I believe in the track, then like, okay, let's work with the artist. Let's see what we can do to take it to that next level and get it to where we want it to be so that it does well.
Nice. Cool, man. Coming back to this whole family dynamic thing, I was curious the origin story of how you and Hugel connected and built this like great working relationship. Sounds like a great friendship too.
Yeah, so he was playing a few of my tracks, like I would say right after like the COVID time when artists kind of like started touring again. And I got tagged in a few videos, and I checked out his profile, and like I wasn't really familiar with who he was. He was doing very well in Europe. Mm-hmm. And at this point I was in the US, or in Mexico actually, in North America. And so I saw that obviously his profile was already quite like pretty decently big. And so I reached out to him. I was thanked him for supporting my tracks, and we just kind of started talking on Instagram. I was obviously sending him music. We were talking about collabing, so I was sending him ideas. We were going back and forth, and that summer I was in Barcelona, based in Barcelona for like a European like summer tour, and he was playing at Pasha in Barcelona. So I hit him up and I was like, hey man, like I'm in Barcelona. I saw that you're playing this Sunday. He's like, oh, for sure, come out, like I'll put you on the list. Went out there, met him. After a set, we had a chat outside and we just like really hit it off. And he, at that point, this was like, 3 years ago, I would say. Yeah, summer 2021. And he mentioned that he had a record label, but at this time, like a brand, it was Make the Girls Dance. And he's like, hey, I'm doing a party in Lisbon because he's based in Lisbon. I'm doing a party in Lisbon for my record label, my brand. It's going to be a boat party. Do you want to come out and play it? It's going to be next month. He's like, you can stay at my house, like, come out. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I went out there, stayed at his house. We kicked it. I got to meet, he's really good friends with Aminej. So Aminej was there. He was playing the party too. We had like a, really nice like pool barbecue like Saturday. And then Sunday we did the show. And it just kind of like went from there. And we became, really like good friends in the music side, but also, just like the personal side.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably a few months after that, at 6 months, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, like if you want to launch the label, like I'd be more than happy to help you with that and like, be the A&R. Like, and at that point he wasn't really sure when that was going to happen because he was, speaking with some majors and things like that. So he's like, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that, but I'll keep you posted. And February of, I think last year, February of last year, he calls me up and he's like, hey, we're launching the label this year. Do you want to manage it? And I was like, absolutely, say no more, fam.
Wow.
Like, absolutely.
Wow.
And our first release was September 2023. Yeah, 2023.
Wow.
Was the launch of the label.
Dude, that's crazy because I mean, you guys have #1 records on Beatport already, and it's such the label could be considered in terms of lifespan like an infant.
For sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and within 1 year, we're already according to Beat Stats, we are #4 Afro House label on Beatport.
Wow,
yeah,
insane. That's like really insane growth.
Yeah,
so cool, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
Dude, that being said, in terms of the label and its future, and we spoke about this a bit at dinner before your gig last night, like, where do you guys see the label going? I mean, you had said you guys are basically planned well into 2025. And then you also said something that stuck with me, where when you're picking music, signing music and potentially scheduling it that far ahead, you're already thinking of where music could be going versus what's hot right now.
Totally.
Could you talk a little bit about where you think the label's going and a bit about your process when you're curating music to be scheduled that far out?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the like blessings in disguise, I call it the gift and the curse that I've kind of always had with my sound in general is like, I've always been like too future for, like with the music that I was making. Like I talked to you about this. Like I was, I've been pushing this kind of like Afro and percussive Latin sound for, close to 10 years now. I was playing that and I started playing that in Bangkok and people were kind of like, what is this? What is this Latin? So what is this congas and things like that? And not that it's like new. Tribal and Afro House has been around forever. You have like the old school tribal, like Miami space, like early 2000s, Chusen Ceballos, like kind of sound, like Oscar G, like those guys are pioneers, and then Roger Sanchez. So it's not like it's anything like new, but it's new to these generations and new to like the scene right now, or like, the resurgence of it and like the new evolution of the sound. And I've always kind of been able to kind of see what's gonna be popping, and I don't know if it's just like my taste. You know what I'm saying? It's just stuff that I've always kind of been into. That within a couple of years, it's like, oh man, this is, you know. And then I know this sounds like hipster as fuck. Like, you know, like
That's all good.
you know, I like this before everybody else liked it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things that I just kind of had that ear, and so with the label, obviously, you know, it's a lot of it is also understanding trends and understanding like where things are going, and like and planning out with that, and you know, understanding what's hot right now, what could possibly be hot within the next, you know, couple months. And for me, and I know the flow kind of feels the same way too, is kind of this like hybrid between, you know, indie dance and Afro House and things like that. And I think that's going to be something that's going to start popping off too this year. And then of course for me, I personally think that the the very drum heavy percussive tribal Afro is also going to stay, because that kind of stuff is like the timeless Afro House, at least to me, the timeless Afro House sound, as opposed to, you know, kind of like the more commercial and kind of like formulaic also type of Afro that's being heard nowadays too, you know. And I think that being able to kind of like spot those trends out and sign music that isn't necessarily just hot right now, but something that can be timeless, is something that we always shoot for the label. Is we want, you know, timeless records, stuff that is going to be popping now and it's going to be popping in 6 months. That if I play something, you know, 6-7 months from now, or if I play right now, the first release that we had from a year ago, it's still going to go off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what we look for. And we tried to see the new fresh sounds and see how we can push that and kind of like steer the trends in those directions. And especially, you know, obviously with Flo, with Hugel and his platform, and you know, he's a tastemaker, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, people really understand and like what he's playing, and you know, if he tells you a record is hot, people are gonna buy it and they're gonna play it. And for the most part, he's quite right.
Yeah.
You know, like he's never really wrong from what I've known from since the beginning that I've known him. You know, if he tells me a track is hot and is gonna pop,
he knows what's up.
He knows what's up, bro. Like,
cool.
There's been times where I've like one track, which is funny because it was is one of like our main tracks in the label. Is from Grosso Modo, 1001 Week. And he showed that to me, and I was like, "Yeah, this is cool." And he's like, "Nah, man, this is gonna be a hit." And I was like, "All right, cool." You know, obviously, you know, he's here. You know, it's his baby. You know, like, make the girls dance. Obviously, I'm not gonna be like, "No, we're not gonna sign it." So I was like, "All right, cool, let's put it out." You know, obviously, like, you believe in the track, and then next thing you know, it was like the biggest track, like, from the Grosso Modo guys to date.
Nice, man. Cool, bro. Appreciate you sharing everything. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a bit about the label. Some other categories I want to discuss today are DJing, your performance style and everything. And then, of course, I'm on production. So speaking about the DJ category now, so last night was a super cool set, man. I don't think my Shazam worked once. How I was reflecting on it this morning, I was like, man, I admire your position and what you're doing. And I'm also a little bit envious because I thought the amount of fire music you must get on a weekly basis between people sending you promos, demo submissions, exclusive, bootlegs, remix, all of that stuff. You're in such a great situation and position to be able to put together a super fire DJ set.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, as a DJ that always wants some new stuff, it's super cool to see it, man. So congrats on all that. I was curious, that all being said, when you have such almost an overwhelming amount of great music, but also wanting to play stuff that's familiar to the crowd, what is your preparation process like when you get ready for a gig?
So when normally I check demos for the tracks on the track stack for the label on Thursdays, because that's like right before the weekend pops off. So I'll go through the demos. And I was telling you last night, we receive, I would say, like close to 400 or 500 demos a week.
Insane.
Right?
Insane.
And here's the thing, like, a lot of these demos and promos are also like artists sending music that isn't really maybe in the genre. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I heard about this.
And it's like, I understand that because I was also at that position too before, like when I first started like producing and sending music out to artists. Like, you know, I would make something that was that Jamie Jones would never in his life play, and I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna play it. I'm gonna send him, you know, or like Solomon, send him like some, you know what I'm saying? It's stuff that like their sets aren't like this, but in your head you're like, oh, maybe one day he's playing, you know, a time that this could fit.
Yeah.
So I get it because as an artist, like you try to get your music in front of as many ears as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the tracks that we do get, you know, maybe they might not be a fit for my sets, but you know, that being said, we do get like for the label like tracks that we do get a lot of stuff that are actual demos for, you know, within the sound and things that people that we possibly could play. So I go through those, you know, pick out the tracks that I like. Then I go through my personal in-flight, which is going to be, you know, a collection. The same thing, man. I probably get like 200 releases per week. And some of those releases have like, you know, 2 tracks on them. Some of them are VAs with like 7 tracks on it and stuff like that. So I got to go through all that. And I make it a point to listen to everything that I receive because, you know, I think that's important. You know, when I was coming up, it would be really disheartening when you would send artists or labels demos or promos and they just never listen to anything. Like, cause you know, you can check on SoundCloud, like the stats and see who played it. And it was just kind of those things like, okay, like, I'm going to make sure that I listen to everything that I get because even and the cool thing with TrackStack is like, if I don't like something, if it's not for me, I'm able to like decline it and it sends the artist like a message saying like, hey, we listened. It's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Keep sending music. Let's move on. So at least you're bringing closure to that person. Like, okay, he listened to it. It's not for him. Let's move on.
Yeah.
As opposed to like that kind of, oh, did he listen? Did he not like it? Like, Bob, you know what I'm saying? So I try to make sure that I listen to everything that I get just out of, because I would have wanted that when I was coming up. And I still want that, you know, when I send music to artists or to demo, to labels and things like that, like I'm hoping that, you know, they get listened to.
Yeah.
And even at this level, you know what I'm saying? So back to the questions of prepping for my set is like, I'll listen to all my stuff, download the stuff that I feel like I would play out. You know, there's not really like, I just organize my music by using, you know, like Apple Music, iTunes by genre. I have like, you know, my Afro House playlist. I have like Afro Latin, Afro melodic, Afro peak time, Afro chill.
Yeah.
And then I have like MTGD demos, MTGD releases. I have my, you know, my stuff. I have then the Afro tribal underground. And that's, you know, tech house, obviously, a few here and there. And then is just, I don't really plan out my sets. I just kind of have an idea of the tracks that I want to play. Like if I get a fire demo or I get a fire like promo from, you know, a homie that I'm like, oh shit, like this is really dope. Like I got to play this. Then I'll make sure to like keep that in my mind. But I don't have like special like venue playlists, like,
okay,
you know what I'm saying? I just kind of go off the top of the dome, really.
Nice.
But the way that I put my sets together is definitely like once I'm in it and I'm doing it, like, and I think this is because I kind of came from the people that taught me how to DJ. Like I used to work at like clubs, you know, like open format clubs, like bartend. And when I was in uni and I started DJ, I started like wanting to learn how to DJ because I would watch my friends like DJ and I was like, yo, like teach me what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And I've always been like a hip hop head and like,
yeah, no doubt.
I would see like the routines that these DJs would have where it'd be like, you know, this song going into this song. And it's kind of like, so now when I do my sets, like I might have like 3 tracks that play along with each other. So like one track might be like this that talks about drums, and then this next one talks about like African drum samples, and then the next one talks about this like the dark beat. So I would transition into that. That would lead me into like the next, the next like little kind of like mini genre. And that would, this one, I know that if I want to play, track B or track C from track A, I need something in the middle that's going to transition me into this smoothly.
Yes.
And then this one is going to transition me into track E via these other 3 tunes that are going to lead me into like, if I want to go from heavy tribal sounds into the like Arab influenced Afro, I'm going to start playing things that are kind of leading into that so that I can play this one track that I really want to play.
Yeah, I feel that it reminds me of something similar I do. I'm not so much curating a playlist, obviously, for performance, but more song grouping.
Yeah.
Might have a bunch that mix well because of the vibe and harmonically, of course, too. But that's pretty much preparation for me.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I have like the Afro Latin, Afro Arabic, Afro, like this and that. So I know that if I want to play this, I'm going to have to, it's not like, oh shit, I want to play this song now. Like, no, I'm going to lead into that one. So it's like, it's chess, not checkers, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Curious dude, interesting question, I think, if I do say so myself. What gives you more satisfaction at this point? Making an insanely good beat in the studio or playing an insanely good DJ set for a dope crowd at a sick venue? What's more rewarding?
I would say, like, I think they're both equally rewarding in their own separate aspects.
Okay.
Because making the fire track in the studio is your artistic expression and me, putting what's in my head like out. Pushing out like the art that's in my head and being able to like have that as a final product in front of me and for people to listen to and draw that emotion from what came from me. You know what I'm saying? And that in itself is like an incredibly rewarding thing to be able to finish a track and do something that like was in your head and have it come out the way that you thought it was. I mean, it never comes out the way that you thought it was gonna be, but to an extent, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And be like, wow, this is really fucking good. Like that is a feeling that I can't even describe. It's like you can't compare that to something else. But then you take this product, this piece of art, and then you play your DJ set and you're able to show that art to, 100, 200, thousands of people, depending on what show you're playing, and having the reaction from the crowd is also like another incredible high. That it's two different like sensations that are completely intertwined with each other. Because, I think as a producer, we're musicians. I'm a musician, and I may not be in a band where we play a live concert and I'm on the guitar or I'm singing. My concert is my DJ sets, and me playing my art in my DJ sets is my way of like playing the live instruments and giving the people the concert that I would be giving if I was in a band. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Taking my songwriting and exposing it to a live audience.
Yeah, cool. I like that, man. If someone were to ask you, I'm curious what's closer to your heart for you is, if someone was to ask you, would you want to be known as a DJ producer or producer DJ? Which one would come first for you?
Oh, that's tough, man. I would say producer DJ, because I feel like that, that's kind of like what I spent, at least in the come up to like the lead up into where I am now in my career. I spent a lot of hours in the studio to get to this point now. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that to me, like I'm an artist and I'm a producer first. And I'm, for me, the music is, making the music is incredibly important. And of course, like the DJing is equally as important. But I feel like to me, producer DJ is the way that I would be that I would prefer to be looked at. But I also I love the performance aspect of it too. So it's a tough question, but I think I would say at the end of the day, producer DJ for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense based on what you said before about the analogy of you kind of like starting at home as the musician, putting together the music, and then using the DJ aspect as the performance of showcasing that art. It makes sense the producer comes first.
I mean, even though I started as a DJ first, and then I started to learn to produce.
Ah, okay.
I would still say that like once I started to produce, I definitely like got way more focused on that and let that help drive the performance aspect of it and like getting the bookings and things like that.
Nice.
So
cool, my man. So I was checking your history and your discography with releases specifically on Beatport. Looks like you've been putting out music it'll be over 10 years now.
Yeah.
The first release I saw was on Dog Records, I think, 2014, great, over a decade, man.
Yeah.
And the history of your production showed that, it's been spanning over a multitude of genres, house, indie, tech house, melodic techno. In the last 6-7 years, I think you had said more Afro Latin.
Yeah.
Talk about your evolution as a producer. Like when you think about that first song on Dog Records, 2014, compared to what you're making now, what does that make you feel? What do you think about your evolution?
I mean, I definitely wish I could go back and take down some of those tracks, just quality wise, for sure. But nah, man, it was like that first record that I signed was actually like, I mean, I made a lot of shit records before that, but that was like one of the first records that really came together, and it was like deep house. And I sampled. It was so Mix Mag had this YouTube series, or not a series, but this YouTube like clip that came out with Bloody Beetroots, and it was the guy from I forget his name, but the guy from Bloody Beetroots, and he was talking about the history of house music, and it was this kind of like cut in and out with like a few different interviews with DJ Pierre and at this time Frankie Knuckles when he was before he passed, and Marshall Jefferson, and it was this incredible just like talk about house music and where it started, and like the Warehouse and Paradise Garage. And I was just like, yo, this is incredible. Like I need to sample this. So I sampled that, some of those quotes from there. And I just built this like deep house track with like, I was using Silent at the time. I didn't really even know what it was doing. I was just like turning knobs, and I just like looked at the first preset that said like deep house, and I was like, oh, this is the synth for it.
Nice.
And yeah, that was, and I sent that out, and Dog Records signed it, and I was like, oh man, maybe I can do this. It was one of those things where I was like, yo, maybe I am able to make music and music that is good enough to be signed. And at that time I was all, like the first records that I was making was like deep house, and back then I was also making G house. And G house, not as it's known now, but what it was when Amin Edge and Dance were the ones behind it, where it was like there was a record label called Sleazy G out of the UK, and that was like the hottest like record label to want to get on.
Okay.
And yeah, and they put out like the Amin Edge and Dance Lost, who they like sampled Frank Ocean, and there was like a lot of it was this really cool like new disco deep house sound, like 115 to 120 BPM with hip hop vocals. And it was like really like dope, you know, it was like really kind of like, it was G House gangsta, you know what I'm saying? Like, and coming from the being, you know, like growing up in the US and like being a hip hop head, I was like, yo, this is great. Like, this is what I want to do. So I was making that, you know, and I signed a few records in that genre.
Cool.
And then that bubble kind of burst, like that genre started kind of, it wasn't like a bubble that burst, but that genre kind of started moving in a different direction, where it would be kind of became more of like a bass house type of sound. And so I started kind of like looking at what is the kind of music that I'm really listening to and kind of what I want to play. And that's when I started kind of like making more tech house. And that progressed into the like tech house with very percussive and Latin like elements, because by that time, I started listening to a lot more of that stuff, and I was like, oh man, like this is really dope. And I started playing it in like the very few gigs that I was getting, like when I first moved to Bangkok, and I started playing it, I was like, okay, this is like dope. This is the stuff that I kind of like want to start trying to make. And then there was always like the few experimental, tracks here and there. I made some, kind of like you said, like melodic, kind of like, I wouldn't even call it melodic techno. It was more kind of like house with some melodic elements. And then after like the tech house bubble burst, and a lot of tech house producers started moving into like the minimal deep tech, I kind of tried my hand at it, and I was, but there was always the underlying percussive element, and what kind of like differentiated, like that's my sound, that's my style. I'm always gonna have this like these percussions like in my track. Like one of my good buddies, Anada, who I've made some tracks with, he was actually my my engineer for a few years. He was always like, bro, there's not a single track that you've sent me that doesn't have a fucking conga in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I don't hear a conga within the first like few bars, like I'm not gonna play it.
No doubt. So overall, do you think, well, I guess it answers in itself, but do you feel your sound is like, do you feel you're really in your pocket right now? Like this is your zone?
Totally. Yeah. This cool. Is for sure. Like this and the stuff that like you heard last night, which is cool because I was able to go in a little bit like underground in a sense with that, like this stuff. I love Afro House, and I love the tribal stuff, and I obviously love the stuff that we put out on the label. And the stuff that I really, really love is this kind of like I said, this early 2000s, Space Miami, Space Ibiza, Terrace, like
a bit minimal, would you say, as minimal? No, elements?
More like that hypnotic tribal sound, like Saeed Yoon and Oscar G, like like the old school, Roger Sanchez, David Tort, who's actually one of my good buddies that we have tracks together, like those guys that championed that sound. Obviously like Eric Murillo before he passed, he was, very heavy into that sound as well. And it was that like very percussive, just hypnotic, just heads down, underground, like rolling bass lines. And now, like what I'm trying to do with my sound is kind of like really start to bring that back and push that sound out as much as possible. And same thing with like, with the label, we have some tracks that are kind of like in that vein. And yeah, that's for me, that's my pocket. That's like what I really, really like. If, like, especially when I get to play places like Miss Fish, where it's kind of like more of a club, intimate, I'm able to kind of go in a little bit deeper and more underground. That's what I really like.
Yeah, the crowd's right with you.
Yeah, totally.
Dope. Cool, man. Moving into a section of the podcast now that I'd like to spend some time on, about work ethic. We spoke about it a whole bunch. And I'm going to intertwine it with another topic. So Man, when we were planning this podcast, you had said you had no issue doing it at 11 in the morning. It's even after a late night performance because you don't drink, wouldn't be hungover, and have good energy. I also saw one day after you landed in Bali, you went straight to Soma Fight Club, getting it in. So clearly fitness and health are a big part of your life. I wanted to speak a bit about this journey of sobriety that you've been on for the last little while. The hows and the whys that you maintain it while working in an industry that, truth be told, has some toxic aspects to it. Would you be able to share with us a bit about it?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I'm 38 years old. I've been partying for 20 years now, since like 18. That was probably even longer than that. So it was a long run, you know what I'm saying? And I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking the first time Halloween of last year because, as you mentioned, I into fitness. I box. I've been boxing for about 7 years now, and very into it actually. And I signed up to fight in Mexico City at a tournament in December of last year. So Halloween was like, I partied. I was like, okay, this is gonna be the last party until my fight. I'm gonna go sober, train, focus on that. Then I ended up getting booked to play in Toronto, actually, the night of the fight. So of course I had to go work. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna drink until New Year's. New Year's comes around, I drink, I indulge. I wake up the next day. I was also getting bronchitis. So I woke up with a hangover, fever, couldn't breathe, it was like one of the worst 2 days of my life, physically. And I was like, man, I don't ever want to feel like this again. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not it. And at the same time, I knew that I had an Asia tour coming up in February, and there was an option to partake in a tournament in Thailand, in Bangkok, at the beginning of March. So I was like, okay, I'm going to fight. And I signed up for the fight. I was like, I'm going to fight in March. I'm not going to drink until then. 3 months, focus on, music, training. I took the whole month of February off from touring. I only played local gigs in Bangkok so that I could really focus on training for the fight. And it was basically like a fight camp with the gym that I fight out of in Bangkok. And, the day comes, I have my fight, I win my fight. My agent was there and he's like, all right, yo, let's have a beer, let's celebrate. And I was like, all right, cool. I haven't had a beer since New Year's, 3 months. I just won my fight. Let's have it. I start drinking the beer and 2 sips in, I was like, I don't need this anymore. I don't even want it. Something just inside my head clicked. It was like an epiphany. And I was like, I'm done with this. Before I could smash 10 beers in a night, bro, maybe even more, 15 beers. And I had this 2 sips of beer and I was like, all right, that's it. It's not for me anymore.
Wow.
And since then I haven't had a sip of alcohol. So I think it's coming up on 350 days or something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh no, it would be 340 something because on New Year's will be 1 year.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Super inspiring. So now tying in sobriety with work ethic, I keep referring to dinner last night because we had such a sick conversation.
Yeah, for
No, it was huge for me, man, honestly. You had mentioned you simply can't afford to have a day off on the couch being cooked, let's say, from a night out. Could you elaborate on why you can't afford these days off? And could you also describe a little bit about the level of work ethic it takes to be beside a guy like Hugel and manage a super hot up-and-coming record label? Totally.
Yeah, it was once I, the first month of being, sober and playing sober was I would say the first 2 months it was pretty nerve-wracking because I think as DJs we're so used to okay, we have the dinner with the promoter and we have a couple drinks there. And then like before the set, you maybe have a shot to like calm the nerves, especially if you're like playing in a new city. So I was so used to using alcohol as a crutch to help me get in the flow of what my set should be and relying on that the first 2 months of playing without drinking it was quite hard because I was like felt like I wasn't getting in the flow. And of course this is all in my head because I would finish my set to people and be like, yo, that was such a sick set.
Right.
And that kind of like after the first 2 months I started realizing everything kind of clicked and I was like, this is a job. I'm here to work. You know what I'm saying? I've already had my fun. I've had 20 years of partying. I had, 2 years of touring, or a year and a half of touring and being fucked up and this and that. Now things are really starting to pick up for my career. The association with Hugel, running the label, things like that. It's like I am in, if I'm not playing, somewhere and I'm maybe he has a show and I'm there, I'm meeting agents, I'm meeting promoters, I'm meeting owners of clubs, I'm meeting, artists like Diplo when he brought out J Balvin and Brooklyn Mirage. Like I'm meeting these people, I'm meeting their teams. I can't be fucked up. I can't be drunk. This is a business, man. This outside of the art and outside of the music. This is a business that we're in, and I need to be seen as somebody that can be reliable and somebody that is a professional.
Wow.
And being fucked up and being drunk and talking, nonsense, and it doesn't work, man. It's not a sustainable lifestyle. And like you said, now I'm 38. My hangovers are 3 days. My hangovers before I stop drinking were 3 days long. So it's like, with the amount of traveling that I'm doing, with the amount of work that I have with the record label, and obviously with the amount of work that I need to for my own music and like finishing my tracks and like working on my project, I can't afford to just, have a day where I fuck everything off and like, I'm hungover, I can't answer these emails, or I'm hungover, I can't finish this track, I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not viable. It's not sustainable. I can't do that anymore. I need to be on point 100% of the time. And I love it. I love being in this hustle and like having this like mindset and this grind that is just like, it's the artists, the people that go 100% into this and grind it out and are the ones that are putting in 16, 18-hour days. Those are the ones that get to the next level. And if you talk to any other artists that, that are at that level, like Hugel, like Diplo, bro, these guys they're machines, man. It's nonstop work, and you can't do that work if you're hungover or you're fucked up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, so many gems, great inspiration for myself. I mean, I'm so happy, bro, that I started this project because I'm meeting so many like-minded people, and I'm constantly having this inner dialogue, more like arguing with myself, like, dude, like, let's go to the next level. I'm getting to meet people like yourself, and I'm realizing there's no like secret sauce, there's no like shortcuts or anything like that. Like, you really got to axe these bad habits because they're totally hindering your success. And not to say that, I mean, there's people out there that still indulge and engage in this stuff and they are successful. But I'm of the belief that the pace in which you could accomplish your goals are for sure hindered by the cloudy mind and these days off and stuff.
It's funny enough, I was scrolling in bed this morning on Instagram, and an interview came up with John Mayer, right? And he was talking about his, like, the day that he decided to, because he doesn't drink either.
Right.
And he said that he was in the car driving somewhere, like in between shows, and he had an inner conversation with himself, and it was like, John, what percentage of your potential do you want to have to use? Is it 60% and you want to have 40% fun, which is fine. And he's like, whatever, there's no right or wrong answer. If you want to have 50 and 50, that's completely fine. And he said to himself, I want to have 100% of my potential. And then he goes, do you know what that means? He goes, 100%. That means I need to cut this out and I need to be 100% on my game all the time. And he's like, that year changed my life. That year, he's like, I went on, like 4 tours, 2 bands, like all this stuff. And it was like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like how much of your potential do you want to use?
What a question, man.
Right?
Because who wants to say less than 100?
Right.
Like, I mean, you have to be realistic with yourself, but like, who really wants to say less than 100? Because it sounds kind of weak.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was funny that came up this morning, and I was like, "Oh man, this is perfect. I'm definitely gonna use that example too here when we talk about it."
Yeah,
and it's John Mayer's incredible artist.
Yeah,
and I'm finding that more and more people, artists at that level, not just in like the house scene and DJs, but just artists in general. It's like, they don't drink. 50 Cent, he doesn't drink.
Word, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so there's got to be some sort of correlation with that.
Proof is in the pudding, they say.
Exactly. Yeah. So
cool, man. Dude, curious. Are you a spiritual dude? Do you have anything that you believe in?
No. I'm very. I grew up Catholic, and I'm quite atheist.
Whoa, no way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't really believe in like zodiacs or spirituality. And not that there's anything wrong with it,
Sure.
People free to believe what they want to believe in. But I believe in myself and the work.
Cool. I dig that.
Yeah.
You're the vessel making all this happen. So
absolutely.
Cool.
So that's, like I said, there's no, like I don't think there's anything wrong. And I know that there's people that are spiritual and my family's still very, very religious and things like that. And I try not to, before I used to try to like argue with my parents about, religion. Now it's just like, let people have their thing, so.
No doubt. Cool, man. Man, a question I always like to ask towards the end of the episode, because I feel that there's going to be a majority of like up and coming artists here that are watching and pulling inspiration, stuff like that. So I want you to just imagine for a moment, there's a DJ producer out there right now that's not starting from ground zero, but let's say they have some local residency. They're doing their thing in their own town. They have a couple releases out on local labels, but they're really trying to break through and make that quantum leap, get through that next threshold, start mobilizing, maybe try and get some bigger records signed, get an agent, stuff like that. Just break through to that next level. Any tips of advice you could offer them? Maybe 2 to 3 pieces, 2 to 3 gems.
I mean, and I talked about this. I had a mini interview with my boy Andrew Pololos in Montreal. And he kind of asked me, a similar question. And man, the recipe is not a groundbreaking recipe, man. Is put the work in, sit down, put the work in, get your head down, cut out the distractions, make the music, you know what I'm saying? Like finish your tracks, find your sound, finish your tracks, get them out to the people that need to hear them. And don't stop. Don't take no for an answer. Don't let the no's like get to you, because it's gonna be endless amount of no's. Bro, I'm still getting like denied like signings. You know what I'm saying? I'm sending music out to labels and they're telling me no, and it's just okay, cool. We move on to the next. You know what I'm saying? Don't let that for every my dad. He's been an entrepreneur his entire life, and he's been an incredible salesperson. He could sell, ice on Eskimo. Yeah. And
cool.
He told me, one of the best pieces of advice is for every 99 no's, there's one yes. And you just got to keep pushing for that yes, and, just keep going. And then I would also say, don't play it safe.
Ooh, big
what I'm saying? Don't play it safe. Take that risk. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've seen this topic come up quite a few times on Threads, you know, kind of like local resident DJs getting comfortable with what they're doing at that moment. And you know, it's easy because like, okay, cool, you have a residency at the hottest club in your hometown and you're playing there, you know, 2-3 times a week. The money's pretty decent. The girls are there, or the boys, whatever you're into. You know what I'm saying? Like the people are there. Like you're opening up for the big artists, and you kind of have like your local fan base, and you're king of the city. But that's it. Take that leap, man. Like take the leap and try to go other places. Try, you know, like you're gonna fail at first, but you're not gonna know if it really could pop off unless you actually try it. You know, take the risk, and it's a lot easier said than done. Like I said, you know, I used to be a school teacher before, and I was teaching for 10 years while at the same time doing this music thing, you know, side by side. And it wasn't until, you know, 2.5-3 years ago where I quit my day job to focus on the music, and it was the best decision that I ever took. Now, I'm not telling somebody to quit their day job and focus fully on the music, because I don't know what their, you know, lifestyle expenses and what they have going on. You know what I'm saying? For me, it was easy. I was a single guy living abroad. Like I could quit. I don't have kids. I don't have anybody that I need to look out for. So of course, like everybody's case is different, but take the risk, man. If you are in the position to, if you have those opportunities and they present themselves and you're able and you can take that risk, it might be terrifying, but it's going to pay off in the long run, and just fully commit to it. I think it's the amount I saw it firsthand too. One of my, with like some of my friends that we started producing at the same time, and they went all in maybe from the first or second year into it, while I played it safe and I stayed teaching, and they went to heights within the first 5-6 years that I could only imagine, I dreamed of. And you know what I'm saying? I was obviously super happy with it because they're homies from my hometown that I'm like, I'm so happy for you. And I'm thinking to myself, like, fuck, like why? You know what I'm saying? Like we started producing at the same time. Like why? It's because they took that risk. They went in all in. And if this is really something that you want to do as a career, it is a lifestyle. It's not just a career, it's a lifestyle. And if you're ready for that and you're ready to do it and you want to be 100% in, take that leap, test it out, save up your money for, play it safe for the next 2 years, save up enough money where if it doesn't go as planned, you still have a little bit of, you can live off of savings, but at least you tried it and you did 2 years of 100% into the music.
Wow, bro. Let's take a moment. Dude, I always like to end off the podcast with some acknowledgements. Man, I think I've brought it up 13 times during this podcast, but this conversation we had at dinner last night, it served me in a way probably deeper than you can understand, but I have my own internal struggles and battles and new heights I'm trying to reach. And I always try to feed off of all of these deep conversations that I have. And it served me so much, man, because I'm really trying to break through that next threshold myself. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and say thank you for that talk, man. Appreciate you coming here, being a part of She's With Us, serving the vibes. Just touching on She's With Us for a minute. In a time where Afro House is so prominent now and it's getting a little more commercialized, a little more poppy and stuff like that, you really took us on a sonic journey last night that was super special. We got that shit ready for YouTube.
Dope.
We'll chop that up and get it live, man. Can't wait to show you guys. Also, I wanted to say too that Bali is a place of karma, and I think you came here and did really good work. And although you're not a super spiritual person, I hope that the good karma comes back to you tenfold for what you did for myself. And my night.
I do believe in karma though.
Oh, okay.
I do believe in that.
Okay. A little spirituality for Juany Bravo. Yeah. Dope. Man, appreciate you being here. Guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Big interview. More on the way. Let's go, Brodie Nero TV. Peace, love, and light.